If you are getting ready to do your first art market or you're thinking about doing an art market, stick around. This video is for you. My name is Kourtney. I'm an artist and I did my first art market 2 months ago. And right after that market, I wrote down every single thing that I can remember that I did to prep for this art market and that I learned from the art market. So I figured this is the best time to record this video when everything is so fresh in my mind as someone who just did their first art market. So let's get into it. Okay, so this video is going to be organized into five different categories. I made a list. I have a list of stuff to keep me organized. So the 5 categories, we have planning and organization, products and inventory, vendor booth and / table setup, branding and promo, market day, and then aftermarket. That is 6 categories, not 5. So we have 6 categories. Real quick, oh my gosh, real quick before I get into this video, I wanted to thank you guys so much for all the love you guys shared on my art before content video. I'm so glad that resonated with you all. They made me feel so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, so I know I'm not alone in this. Like other people are dealing with these things. So thank you all so much for everyone who showed love on that video and was sharing their thoughts and things about everything that I was talking about. So if you haven't seen that video, if you're an artist who is frustrated with social media or online space and all that stuff, just give it a watch. Maybe it's something that will be helpful to you, especially as someone, if you're prepping for an art market or a craft market of some sort, you're a creative of some sort and probably are doing promo on social media. So if that's something that's interesting to you, feel free to check it out. But let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to talk about is planning and organizing. And I felt like that was the best thing to start with because that's where I started. So I'm giving you like all the things that I learned when I was prepping for my first market. First of all, I did a lot of research. I did a lot of research as far as like what I would need to prep for a market because I had no idea like what I was doing. I literally applied for that market and I didn't think that I was going to get in. I didn't think that I was going to get accepted. I just applied on a whim and had the nerve to be shocked when I got accepted. I was like, I gotta do this now. I swear. I applied for that market and I got accepted and I was shocked. And then I said, oh, actually, I gotta move forward with this. So I did a lot of research. I was freaking out. That's like one reason why I wanted to make this video is because as someone who found out I was doing my first art market, I was a little nervous. I didn't know what to do. I was like, I don't know what I need. I don't know anything. I know I need products. I need a table. What else? You know what I mean? So I feel like this would be helpful just for like anybody who was in that same situation of like, okay, I'm doing my first market now. What do I do? So for me, the first thing I did was research. And I guess that kind of goes into the planning and organization phase. Maybe this is part of your research. Congratulations, you're on step 1. There's a subreddit called, and I actually spend a lot more time on there. What is it called? So there's a subreddit, craft fairs. I recommend looking into them as well because there are so many people there asking questions like every day, and there's like tons of information that I found about different things. So you can even start there in the research phase. The first thing I did, I looked on Reddit, did research, looked at different articles and blogs. I came up with a list, which I'm going to share with you. So feel free to, just like watch this. If there's any other information you need, like Google is your friend, I promise you. So the first thing I did was create a timeline and a schedule for myself. So I knew that I had X amount of weeks to prep for this market. And I'm actually going to try to find my little notebook. Hold on. The first thing I did was figure out how many weeks I had to prep. Okay. So 8 weeks. So I made a little list and I separated it by week. I literally wrote week 0, week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So week 0 was the week I spent researching and planning. And I don't know why I didn't call it week 1. I don't know. But week 0. And then I knew the next week I was going to focus on the financial part of it as far as like how much stuff was going to cost, et cetera, et cetera. And then like week after week. So like, then I have certain weeks where I'm working on the products, the prints. I knew I had a trip plan right in the middle of this schedule. So then I have a whole week. I'm like, okay, that's travel. I'm not going to be able to get anything done. So I recommend literally looking at how much time you have left and just like planning it week by week. Like, try to estimate how much time it's going to take you to get certain things, and then set little due dates for yourself as far as like, okay, if you have to order like items that like manufacture somewhere and you know it's going to take time to get to you, plan out that like earlier on in the process. So just in case something isn't right, you can send it back, whatever, like stuff like that, okay, you're not going to wait to the last minute to do. So work it out week by week. And once I set up my timeline, I then went to my to-do list of stuff that I needed to do. And one of those things was buy a printer because I did the research and I knew that it made way more financial sense for me to just buy and invest in a printer as opposed to ordering a bunch of prints from a manufacturer. Like when I thought about it, it just made more sense. Like the investment will pay off over time in a shorter time period. For me, that was my first step. It's going to look different for you depending on the products that you are selling. And then once I had that list, next to it, I wrote a little number as far as which week that was going to get done in. I put a little 2 next to buy a printer because I knew I was going to do that week 2. Week 4, finalized product list was on there. I had a little 4 next to it because I knew I was going to do that week 4. Well, if this is helpful, or maybe I'm getting too much in the nitty gritty, but have a timeline. I guess that's what I should say. And I'll put time steps down below if any of this stuff is not useful for you, because you may not even need all this information. Yeah. So that's it. Timelines and schedules. And I would say put due dates for like really important things as far as like, for me, like I had mugs that I was ordering from a manufacturer, and I knew I needed to get those back at a certain time. I need to get that order in at a certain time. So that was an important deadline that I put a date next. I feel like it's important to make sure you give yourself like plenty of time to get as much of the stuff done that you need, so you're not like stressing out trying to get everything done. And if you watch my last video, my art market vlog, you will know that I did a lot of stuff in 7 days leading up to the market because I literally made this timeline and this schedule. And by the time I went on my trip, came back, like it kind of just threw everything off a little bit, and I was waiting on my printer to come. So it was like all these different things. I had an issue mainly with like working on my test prints and getting my stuff together. So it kind of like pushed my timeline off. And this is why I say it's really important to have a timeline and a schedule, because I ended up getting pushed off at least a couple weeks off schedule with some things. Kind of threw me off, but I still knew everything I needed to do. I did like 3 weeks worth of work in like 7 days, which obviously is possible. I was able to get it done. But if you can avoid that, it's like spread it out as much as you can. Like with me, something I'm really trying to work on is not doing like the procrastination thing, but sometimes between just overthinking, anxiety plus other stuff just pops up. Like that's just how it happens. Just plan ahead as much as you can. The second thing I would say is make a spreadsheet. If spreadsheets aren't your thing, just have like a notebook of stuff where you keep track of stuff. So for me, when I had my spreadsheet, I organized it into different tabs. So I had a tab for expenses as far as like all the different things based on my research that I would need for the market. So like I organized it by like table and decor. So I have like how much each of those things are going to cost me, products, like things that need to be ordered or manufactured, packaging stuff, supplies. Like I literally organize and put pricing just so I can know like how much does this thing cost? How many of each item do I need? How much is shipping? Give me my total and tally it all up. And I think it's really important to set a budget beforehand so you know like how much money you have to work with. Some things can be DIY, which is helpful, but have a spreadsheet for all your expenses. Also have a spreadsheet, and it can be in that same spreadsheet, but have like another tab for your inventory. So this is where you're going to put all the products and stuff that you plan on selling in this spreadsheet. And I organized mine essentially because I had art prints. I had 2 different sizes of art prints. And then I had affirmation cards. And then I had mugs. And I had other stuff that I was going to do, but this is where the spreadsheet comes in handy because I was also going to do bookmarks. And I changed my mind because as I'm looking at this spreadsheet and I'm looking at all the stuff and the amount of products, I had essentially in this spreadsheet, I had the name of the product. I had a little preview so I can just have it, easily available. So then I had the quantity of each item and the price. If I was going to do like a deal, like a 2 for $8 deal, I have like my affirmation cards. I put that there. As I was prepping everything, this helped me keep track of how many more prints I had to print. And so I was printing out all of my products. I had a section for like how many is already printed, how many more do I have to print. And then at the market, you can also have a little section for like how many did I sell in each of these categories and how many do I have left. So it's kind of like a little inventory tracking thing, but also I feel like it's helpful during the preparation process so you can keep track of like how much stuff. And you may not have this much stuff for your first market. I just feel like I was probably being a little extra and I brought a lot more stuff than I think I probably need it, but it just depends. If you don't have that many products, that's fine. But I still think some type of way, even if it's just a notebook to keep track of the products that you plan on bringing, so you can at least write down how many you brought, how many you sold. So then you know for the next time you have your next market to bring more of certain things. And I feel like that's pretty helpful. And then I also had a tablet spreadsheet for things that I needed to print as far as like signage, things I needed for the table, pricing cards. Like I literally made a list of everything. And like I said, it don't have to be a spreadsheet if that's not your thing. Write it down, but just have a list because I feel like when you're prepping for a market, especially your first one, like there's so much going on and you don't want to forget anything. So just be prepared. The best way I can say is just be prepared and have a list of stuff. So you know, like what your next step is, you know? Another thing I feel like is good in like the planning, organization, research phase is outside of doing research on Reddit and online, if you can, I kind of do recommend like going to visit a market, especially if you've never went to an art market or craft market, just to kind of see like how things are, to see like how things are set up, how the different vendors set up their tables, how vendors interact with you as a customer, just to kind of get an idea. It's almost like market research in a way. Be inspired. You know what I mean? Like this is the time to like be inspired, learn, study. And then also I would say for this stage, having a goal or amount of money that you want to make. Because then you kind of know like it help you estimate how many products you want to bring and which products you want to sell. And if you don't have pricing already, I think it'd be helpful to like figure like how to price your stuff. Whether it's like, okay, I paid this much for my booth rent or my table fee, market fee, vendor fee, whatever it is. And like whether it's like, okay, I just want to make that back plus this amount. Or, you know, oh, I want to make X amount of dollars. Just whatever that number is for you, just put that somewhere because then I think that'll help you like when you're trying to make your decisions later on as far as like how many products to bring and stuff like that. The next thing I want to talk about is products and inventory. Have a list of like all the things that you want to bring, depending on what your niche is, whether it's like you sell art prints, you sell mugs, you sell pottery, you sell, you know, crochet, whatever it is that you are selling, try to have like a list of products that you want to be bringing to the market. Even if it's just like a list of categories and you have like the number of each item in that category that you want to do. So like for me, my categories were like art prints, affirmation cards, and mugs. I scrapped the whole bookmark idea. I was gonna even sell clay pieces because I'd been doing like air dry clay and stuff like that, but I scrapped that. But once I saw the amount of stuff I had to make and the amount of stuff I had to prepare and do and bring, I was like, yeah, no, the amount of time that I have and the amount of products I'm trying to do is too much. So just visually, sometimes seeing it is like really helpful to help you like plan as far as like how much you need for each category. And that's where that spreadsheet comes in handy as far as like having a list of everything that you want, because then you can keep track of like if you're making things by hand, you can keep track and check things off as you move through your list. So have a product list, and then with that list, have a list of prices that you are setting for each thing. And as far as like pricing, if you sell your items online, you can probably just use those prices. But I know in my research, I found that some people said they tend to, especially if you sell on like Etsy or something like that, they tend to set their prices a little less at art markets because, you know, when you sell on Etsy, especially if you include free shipping, your prices are going to be a little higher online to account for whether it's shipping, fees, all that stuff. So maybe that's something you can consider when you're trying to set your prices as far as like just accounting for some of that stuff. Maybe your prices are a little cheaper at the market. But then some people also say when you think about it, you pay, you know, booth rent. So take that into account. So maybe factor that price into your prices, do some research, like market research, just to kind of see like what the things that you're selling are kind of going for, because you don't want to price yourself out too much, but you also don't want to diminish your work and price too low. So maybe try to do some other research in regards to like how to price your products. So number of products, how much do you want to bring of each product? We kind of talk about that, having a number in mind. That was one of the big questions that I had, was like, how much do I bring? Because if you don't bring enough and you're just sitting there, you sell out, that's a blessing. But then you just sit there and missing out on potential customers, you know? So it was just like, I don't want to bring too much. I don't want to bring too little. That's where it's helpful to have that goal you set as far as like how much money you want to make. I would say aim higher than you think you might need, just in case, because if you have more products and you don't sell out of everything, then you already have products for your next market. If you choose to do it again, that's less stuff that you have to make, for your next market. So bring more than you think you need, as much as you can carry. I think that's the best way to look at it, as far as just thinking about how much you want to make and just bring that amount to hit that amount plus some more on top of that. It's just trial and error. Packaging, that's another thing to think about, as far as for the market. How are you going to package your products? So for me, with art prints, I decided I would go with the chipboard backing and the plastic sleeves for my 8x10 art prints. And for my 4x6 art prints, I just went with the regular smaller plastic sleeves. For the mugs that I sold, thankfully, when they came from the manufacturer, they were all individually in these boxes and very well packaged and protected. So that was really helpful, because I knew that I can just literally put a thank you card on there or sticker or something and hand it out to the customer in a bag. And that was really easy. But if you're selling like fragile items, think about how you want to package these up for the customer. So make sure, that they're protected. Even though you're not shipping them, they're still going to be walking around the market. You want their products, still make it home safely. So thinking about how you want to package them. Also thinking about how you want to, if you want to have bags for a customer, thinking about the size of your products, and making sure you have bags that are big enough, all that stuff. So that's something to keep in mind. And then also special order requests, which is not something that came up in my research, but it's something that I experienced at my market. There was someone who wanted one of my prints in a bigger size, and I didn't have that size available. And at the time, I told them, they can order on my Etsy shop, and I had bigger sizes there. I gave them the price of how much everything costs. And I wasn't thinking at the time, because I was in my head and overthinking. It's a whole nother story. You can watch my art market vlog to hear about, me being in my head about everything. But I didn't have a plan for if that situation came up. But now I know, going forward, I thought about it after the fact. I said, oh, I could have just took her order. I literally, because when I have my bigger prints, the 18x24, because I only had 8x10s and 4x6, she wanted something larger. My printer that I got can print up to 13x9, even though I did not have it at the time. That I could have just ordered the paper. I could have placed the order, ordered the paper, and shipped it out to them. You know what I mean? So it's something to think about. Have a plan, whether you run out a particular item or they want something in a different size, depending on what you sell. Have a plan for how you can still get that sale, So for me going forward, what I would have did, knowing now, like, thinking a little differently, I would have placed the order, because a lot of the orders that I have, like 18x24 posters, I get those through Printful. So I could have just went home, placed the order, and shipped it to her. I could have took her order there, right there, with my Square Reader, and had that sale. But I wasn't thinking. I was like, oh, you could just order on my website. Did she order on my website? No. I don't blame her at all. So that was a sale that I, missed out on. You never know. I gave her a business card and everything. One day she'll do it. But in that moment, I could have had that sale right then, placed the order there, and just shipped it out to her later. So have a plan in case you have special order requests, whether, depending on what you sell, whether it's special order, customize something that you can actually do, but you don't have on hand. Just have a plan in place for how you want to handle those situations. That's it. So our next thing that we're going to talk about is your vendor booth or your vendor table setup. So the first things that I did was go to Pinterest. I created my little mood board. First of all, I went to Pinterest. Pinterest is that girl. I'm so serious. use Pinterest. It's so helpful. I created a whole little board and put all my inspiration. I just looked on there and searched for like art market, craft market, table setup, all these things. And I just saved a bunch of things that like that I was inspired by, that I really loved. And I just created like a little mood board just to start. And once I had my little mood board in my folder, I went to Canva and I kind of like organized it into like different sections. I created like I don't know, I guess like a presentation PDF. I don't know what you would call it. And I just organized it into different sections. And I kind of like figured out like what type of aesthetic or vibe that I was going for. And it gave me an idea of like what I liked, what I didn't like. I mainly tried to look for people who sold similar products to me so I can see like what kind of like table setup stuff they were using, what type of like art stands, like for me selling art prints, some people had like bins where you flip through. Some people had them set up like on stands so you can just see everything laid out. Some people had them on like those little boards. I don't know if that makes sense. Like there are all these different ways to set up art. So find a way that works for you and you'll know it when you see it. So I started there and I started thinking about other stuff that I wanted for my table and I made a list. So I recommend doing a mood board. And then once you have everything organized, you figure out what you need to do. This will also be helpful when you have your spreadsheet, because then you can actually start to make a list of, I need this many stands. I need whatever tablecloth. I need this booth sign, all that stuff, right? You can make a list of that. And then after I did my mood board, I figured out how I wanted to do. I used Canva to kind of make a little mock-up. And like I just like I don't feel like opening a Photoshop because like I'm a graphic designer. I can do all this stuff, but like I just wanted to keep it simple, like cut and paste, just cutting things out, putting it together, and kind of get an idea of how I wanted everything to come together. So that's helpful. And for me, I didn't even get a chance to put everything together in exactly the way that I wanted to because I ran out of time because baby, just things got a little off schedule. But I know for my next market, and we will get there. That's actually one of my things that I want to talk about. Yes, that's the next thing I want to talk about. As much as you may like that mood board and that mock up and everything that you saw, if it is your first market, not everything is going to be feasible right off the bat. But you really know what's going to work for your setup. And you don't know until you actually start doing markets. So my recommendation is to start small. So once you make your mock-up and you start thinking about your products, you can even start just taking certain things away. I really do recommend starting small so you can build your way up from there. Because what you don't want to do is like invest in all of these different things and then you find out they don't work for you. They don't fit your style, your aesthetic. And so then you spent all this money on stuff that you're not going to use again. Or maybe you decide you don't even want to do markets again. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, start small so you can build up. Because as you do more markets, and even after you do your first market, you will have more of an idea of what you need and what you don't need. You will have more idea like how you want to set up certain things, how you want to change everything. Your table is going to change. Like as you do markets, it's going to move around. Things are going to change. You're going to build higher. You're going to, you know what I mean? Spacing, organization, all that is going to change. So I recommend like investing in like key pieces that you know you want for your setup, but like I don't recommend going all in on your first market. Honestly, start like from the basics almost. Start small because you can build from there because you don't know until you start really doing it and figure out what works for you. You will know as you do these tables and markets. You'll be like, oh, I need to change this. I need to do this. I need to do that. So don't go all out. Yes, have your mood board because it's going to help inspire you and get you an idea of like a starting point. But if you can find things that you can build yourself, DIY it. There's a couple videos on YouTube about some DIY like art stands, all that stuff, borrowing certain items, using items around your house. That is also really helpful. I also went to freaking Dollar Tree and bought things and like DIY that are the stands to like get things some height and level. So like once you have an idea of what you are looking for as far as your mood board, your style, your table setup, figure out ways Cause you creative, you're doing a market, you're doing a craft, art, something. So you're creative. Be creative with that. Honestly, thankfully, when it came to our table, that was something that was it was gifted. I didn't have to pay for a table, thank goodness. I had to pay for the tablecloth, and I had to buy like all of my art print stands like that. But certain things you may be able to find around your house. So get creative. That's what I would say. Okay, for your vendor booth table setup, once you have your mock-up and everything, you're gonna start setting up your table at home. So take some time, do it a few times. Don't just do it once. If you can, do it like 2 or 3 different times, because each time you set it up, you're gonna have like a better idea of how you want it to look on the market day. So once you have it set up, take a picture of your table, the table as a whole from far back, and even different sections depending on how much stuff you have. Like once you have everything set up to your liking, take a photo, because you're going to need that on market day, and that'll be really helpful when it's time to set up. It'll save you some time because then you have a photo and then you know how everything is supposed to be set up. So next thing we're going to talk about is promo and branding. And as a graphic designer, I'm all about the branding. So one thing I recommend is having business cards, getting some business cards made, thank you cards, even if you can print them yourself or order them, having something on the table. I have mine in like 2 different stacks so people can grab them. 4 different stacks, actually. I had 2 that showed the front side and 2 that showed the back side. But essentially, like having cards on your table so people can grab, even if they're not ready to buy at that time. Just like having things for people to like, keep track, remember you buy, and check you out later. So having business cards, having thank you cards are really helpful. Gotta thank the customer. So having that and having that little extra thing for your customers, I think it's really helpful. It's having a little extra thank you. Also, if you have a logo, I know one of the things I was thinking about was getting my logo printed on a tablecloth, but I didn't have time. So, and it's my first market, and I didn't want to necessarily invest in something right off the bat that I may not use, if that makes sense. Like I may change my mind as my table setup grows and evolves. Like then I can make more long-term investments. But what I did essentially for my logo, since I had like this greeting card stand that I was using for my affirmation cards, I just put my logo on the top because it had like a little ring on the top. So I put my logo, my QR code there. You can also just print out your logo with the QR code and put them in some picture frames and put them on the table. Just have your logo somewhere. And if you don't have a logo, you can make a quick one on Canva, or you can literally just put your name, whatever the name of your business is, just write it out somewhere with a QR code, your website, all that stuff, social media, whatever you need. But for the QR code, that's definitely really helpful for people just walking by and they just want to scan it. They don't necessarily want to like buy anything right then and there. Or they can just scan that from across the room usually. So I would make it, a little big so people can scan it. And then your branding, how that comes across. Again, if this is not something you want to invest in right off the bat, you can keep it simple. But if there's like some cohesiveness in your branding, as far as like with your color scheme, your table, whatever your display items are, like as far as like decor or your art stands, your bags, like some type of continue, what's the word? Continuity? That is not the word. Oh my gosh, my brain. What's going on? Some type of continuity. No. But anyway, let's use another word. Some type of cohesiveness, right? I really want to use this word because it really bothered me. That's the word I want to use. But for some reason, that's literally the word. Why does it sound wrong? Continuity. That can't be right. Wait.
Continuity.
That is the word. Why couldn't I say that? What is that? Do you guys ever have that happen where you're trying to say a word and you having like a brain fart? It reminds me of those TikTok videos of people and they were like mixing the words up. And it was like, what's that dude? He was like a cup of coffee, a cup of coffee, a cup of coffee. That's what that reminded me of. A cup of coffee, a cup of coffee. Anyway, what did he say? Continuity. Continuity. Continuity is continuity, right?
Continuity.
continuity, and also my accent doesn't help. I'm from Chicago, but Chicago folks country, as you can hear, it comes out sometimes when I get real comfortable. I feel like it comes out. But continuity. No one talks like that. What was I saying? Okay. Continuity. Okay, so continuity. That just sounds so weird. Anyway, but having different touch points on your table and with your brand. Now we're getting into a whole other topic of branding. If you guys want a video on branding, since I am not only an artist, I'm a graphic designer. Like I have tons of experience in like graphic design, web design, things like that. You guys want a video on branding and touch points and things like that, let me know. I can do that as like a whole separate thing. So branding, QR codes, like I talked about, making sure you have QR codes for your website and your social media. Also, a thing is your clothing and what you are wearing. If you have the ability or the capacity, if you sell clothing, wear some of your clothing. If you have, your clothing, your merch, whatever. But if you're like an artist or something, if you don't have any like apparel, if there's some way to put your art on your shirt, I use Printful. That's what I use to make my shirts. Like this one, gratitude. This is one of my items that I sell. It's a crop top gratitude band too. I have a sweatshirt version of that as well. But I essentially have merch that I use. So I wore a shirt that I sell, Find Your Inner Peace shirt. That's what I wore. And then my husband, he was with me at the event. He wore one of my other shirts that I had made for him a long time ago. New Lessons, New Blessings. That's also my Etsy shop. So if you have any of your items that are able to be put on a shirt, even if you sell like things that aren't necessarily like graphical, like if you sell pottery, ceramics, maybe you can still put your logo on a shirt. Or even if you can't do that and you're like, I'm not spending money on that, I understand. Think about the color of your brand and maybe like what your brand represents. Just wear that color. You like for me, a lot of my art is like bright, colorful things like that. So like had like a bright yellow tablecloth, well, mustard gold tablecloth. I wore my orange, was like an autumn colored Fire Inner Peace shirt. Maybe even wearing like a bright shirt, something colorful, friendly, but maybe your brand is not super colorful. Maybe your brand is a little more muted colors, calm vibes. Maybe it's a little, on the darker side with like dark, deep colors or something like that. Match your brand. Like whatever, like when you think about your products and your brand, you are kind of showing up as, your brand and you are the spokesperson for your brand. So when think about what you are wearing, like does it represent your brand and your products well, if that makes sense? So that's something also to think about. Because it's not just about your table, it's also about you, the person, and people are looking at you too. So that's something to think about as well. Promo. So it was my first art market. I was really nervous. I was overthinking. I didn't want to like have any extra things to think about. So I didn't even tell anybody I was doing my first market. I just told like 3 people. That's it. But I didn't really tell anybody. Like nobody knew I was doing the market. I was really nervous. I don't recommend doing that. Unless, you know what, unless you are like me in a situation where you're really nervous and you're stressing out a little bit and you don't want to think about the added pressure of having other people showing up. I get it because I was there. But I will say, looking back on it, and even at the market on that day, I was like, oh, I probably could have just like told people. I didn't though. But I would say promo. Because it's not just about the branding. You want to promote yourself. If you have any type of like social media presence, if you have an email list, whatever, right? Tell people you're going to be at this market is, as soon as you are able to, as soon as you can, let them know in advance and start posting about it. Have a plan for how you go, whether you're going to do a rollout, maybe you're releasing some new products at this market. Like, tell people about it. Tell your family, tell your friends, like, post about it. I think that's really helpful. I do that. What I'm saying is, I learned looking back at it that I would actually talk about it more and share. So you could have more support that way, if that makes sense. Because even if, like, whether it's family, friends, or even like your followers on social media, even if they're not able to go, they may even share the post. There's more people who could potentially, show up and buy from you. So, like, if you're gonna do market, don't be afraid to tell people. I would probably do that differently next time. But yeah, promo. Talk about it, share about it online. Okay, let's talk about market day. This is the day that you prep for. I got some tips for market day too. The first thing I will say, I know this sounds cliche. Have fun and breathe. Have fun, please. It might be nerve wracking. You might be nervous, scared. I had a lot of like energy, like buzzing through me. I felt like, I don't know if it was nervous energy, but it was just like, yay, excitement, all these things. But like, if you watch my last video where I talk about our market vlog, like middle of the way through, imposter syndrome just like showed up. Okay. That's the whole nother story. You can watch that video if you want to know more about that and my experience there. But what I was saying, do your best to like enjoy yourself and be present in the moment and like soak it all in. Some things I would say, bring someone with you to help you with your table. It should be somebody that you feel comfortable spending however many hours a long day with. So my market was 7 hours. Okay. Bring somebody that you feel comfortable spending 7, 8 hours with. Somebody that is going to be supportive, encouraging, someone who's actually going to be helpful, somebody who can, like, in case you need to step away, take a breather, gather yourself, like, bring a person. I recommend, if you can, bring a person, someone, whether it's a friend, partner, family member, like, bring someone with you that you can hang out with, okay? Because it's gonna be a long day probably. So bring somebody that you can hang out with, have fun with, talk with, somebody to help you not be bored or whatever, depending on how busy you may or may not be. So when you think about, like, would it being your first market, maybe you could be nervous or, little, unsure. I feel like having some type of like emotional support, comfort item with you is helpful to help you stay calm and comfortable. Whether it's like, for me, like I brought crystals with me and I had them behind like my table on my side so I can like have them close to me. It could be maybe you have an emotional support stuffed animal plushie. Maybe you have a piece of jewelry or something, or something. I don't know. Everybody has their thing, even if it's just like some affirmation cards. I have those on my shop. Even if it's just some affirmation cards that you have behind your thing, some little post-it notes, sticky notes, some positive, encouraging words. Have something that is like motivating, calming, supportive, comforting, just like as a little extra, positive energy, because if it's your first market, you're probably nervous. If you're anything like me, it's a little much, but I think that is helpful. Also, again, it goes back to having a person with you to like kind of help you be like a little encouraging cheerleader. That's also helpful. I also recommend having a plan for if you need to leave the table for any reason, whether it's going to the bathroom, talk through with your a person you bring with you as far as a plan of everything of how to do certain things, whether it's pricing, how to work the square reader, all that stuff. Even if you need to just step away and take a breather, because it could be a long day, it could be a lot. And if you're like an introvert or anything like that, maybe you just need some time away from people. So just kind of have a plan. Like for me, if you watch my last video, I had to go to the bathroom, just kind of take some time to myself and collect myself because it was a lot. It was a little overwhelming at times, but just having some type of plan where you could step outside, take a walk around, something. Have some type of plan in place for that. I also recommend visiting other vendor tables, whether this is before the market starts. I know some people walking around looking at all the other vendor tables. And it's also a good idea to kind of see other people's setup before customers start showing up, before it starts getting busy. Like after you set up, make sure you get there to set up early, like whatever time they give you to set up, like get there, at that time or a little earlier or something, but if you can. But I think that would be helpful so you can have more than enough time to set up, so you don't feel rushed, so you don't feel overwhelmed, and just have a moment of rest and calm before the market starts. Because the last thing you want to be doing is setting up right until the market starts, and then it's customers coming in, and make some time in between, right? So you could take this time to kind of walk around, look at other tables, other vendor tables. But even if you want to just take break, maybe this is part of your, your break. If you just walk away from your table for a little bit, get some air, walk around, visit other tables. I think that's also helpful because I think this is also a time where you can network with other people, do some shopping, buy some stuff that you like, connect with other vendors. And you also get to see how vendors interact with customers. That's also another good thing to think about. Like, especially if this is your first market, you can learn a lot from going to other tables and even just people watching and watching how other vendors interact with customers. You can learn a lot from there too. Okay, that gets us to our supplies list. Make a list of the supplies that you're going to need for that day beforehand. I guess that's kind of in the planning and organization phase. My bad. I could have added that there. But if you made it this far, have a list of stuff that you're going to have with you for the market. I recommend having some type of organizational space under the table, behind the table to store all your things. So essentially, I had a whole list that I made of things that I would need for my first market based on my research and looking at other things. Based on your prep work and everything, you'll kind of know like obviously you're going to need all of your products, your table supplies and setup gear, all of that stuff. Your signage, your branding, a square reader. That is really, really helpful. I recommend having a square reader so you can take credit card payments. Also having signage for different like payment apps, whether it's Cash App, Venmo, all those things. Like having the little QR code readers for people to scan and pay. Having cash and small bills, depending on the pricing of your products, like a lot of smaller bills, like tens, fives, and dollar bills, making sure you have enough cash, just in case, because some people do pay with cash, and having some type of fanny pack or something that you keep your cash on you, or some type of cash lockbox or something. You're also going to have some type of kit where you have like your hand sanitizer, bring waters, juices, snacks, things that you can easily eat. Things that aren't super messy, whether it's like granola bars, peanuts, things that are kind of gonna give you fuel. I think a lot of markets usually have food vendors there, but if you don't want to like step away to go, or if you can't, like if you're super busy, you can't step away, make sure you have something that you can eat that's gonna like keep you full. I also recommend having some ibuprofen in case you get a headache, because sometimes it's a long day, it's a lot of standing. So you may need some ibuprofen, having like paper towels just in case things spill, extra tape, scissors, tissues, Kleenex, pens, notebooks, cleaning wipes, garbage bags, things to set up that you would need to set up your chairs. You're gonna need some chairs. So for my market, I used those little outdoor chairs that sit kind of low, little foldable, collapsible chairs. We used those, and those chairs were so low that it was hard to see over the table sometimes. Like if I was sitting down, because I did stand for most of it, if I was sitting down at the table and someone came over, it was like I was like this trying to look over my products. And I'm like, hi, how you doing? I had to stand up because I'm like trying to see over. It's like, hey y'all, how you doing? So like I recommend getting a stool, and that's something I'm gonna look into for my next market, is getting some type of stool of some sort to sit a little higher, so I'm not like this trying to like look over, and you know what I mean? For those moments where I was sitting down and the customer happened to come over, like it would have been helpful if I was able to sit, a little more taller and be able to talk to them a little bit better in that way. Also, I forgot to say this, make sure your chairs are comfortable because you're going to probably be sitting for a while. Also having some type of storage containers or something to carry all your products in, even like little wagons to bring everything in, depending on if your venue may have like 2 different levels. If you're on the second level, first level, maybe there's an elevator, maybe it's not. So like thinking about things you may have to carry upstairs, carry long distances depending on how big the space is. So thinking about how you're going to get your items from point A to point B. Bags, packing materials, so there's bags, boxes, etc. Your picture of your display, so you can have that when you set up. Also having some like power banks for your phones, having a few of those because there might not be any outlets or anything for you to use. Also something for you to do. Like I brought my sketchbook and I just kind of sketched. I would say something where you don't seem super, super busy. Like if someone's walking up to your table to buy, you don't want to seem like you're preoccupied. So I don't recommend like being on your phone a lot if you can avoid it. Whether if you paint, maybe you could bring something that's not super messy. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's some painting, coloring, sketching, drawing, something for you to do. Maybe if you work with like, I don't know, polymer clay. I don't know how messy that could be. Sometimes it does get a little bit on your hands, but like something crafty you can do. Maybe that's in relation to the products that you're selling that you can do while you're there. Even if it's just like a book or an iPad or something you can scroll, but like to have something to keep yourself entertained and busy because it may not always be, customers, it may not always be busy. You're going to be sitting for a while. So find something to like kind of keep you entertained. And one other bonus item on like the spiritual side of things, if that's your thing, take some time to just kind of like pray over yourself, even setting your intentions for the day as far as like what kind of day you want to have, what kind of experience you want to have, what kind of mindset you want to have, just setting that intention beforehand. Do some affirmations in the mirror or say them to yourself in your head, or just taking some time to just like pray over yourself, for yourself, pray for the day, pray for a good outcome, and pray over your table or, set intentions over your table. If you're into scriptures, even like you can write some scriptures on post-it note or some tape or paper and tape it under the table just to kind of bring that positive energy to your space because the market could be a little chaotic, you never know. So just making sure the energy in your circle is good. So set those intentions, say your prayers, scriptures, affirmations, whatever, have your little crystals, whatever you feel like you may need, just to like keep the energy right. So that's just like a little extra bonus tip. All right. We in the last section, y'all. I feel like this video is long. I'm so sorry. I talk a lot and I'm gonna try to cut this down. Okay, so the last section after the market. What I will say, if you don't hit your goal that you set for the market at the beginning of it, that is okay. It's your first market. At the end of the day, like as long as you learn from the experience, I think that's really valuable also in itself. And I think that's also part of why one of the things I mentioned in the previous section was like networking, connecting with other vendors, taking some time to look around and see how other vendors are, setting up their stuff, communicating with customers. Like, let this be like a learning experience. So even if you don't hit whatever financial goals that you set, like you still got something out of it. And I think that is also really, really helpful. Use it as like a training session, almost like a school, like you go into class, okay? So learn from it. And usually once you're there, you'll get different ideas about things that you can change, like while you're in the mix. Like for me, one of the things was the chairs. Like, okay, we need better chairs next time because I'm sitting too low. Or like just thinking about different products that I have. And I'm like, oh, it'd be really cool. I think this might sell really well if I sold this type of product. You know what I mean? And think about table setup stuff. Like you may get different ideas about how you would change things. So take some type of notes so you can like refer to later. So one of the things I recommend is even just sending like a follow up to people that you may have met at the market and network with as far as like under other vendors and things like that. That's a good time to do that. Posting a thank you on social media to your followers or anyone, even if like your friends and family showed up, that's a good time to just send like a quick thank you to them, posting it on social media about the event and saying thank you to people who showed up and just like showcasing your setup and everything, showing a picture of your setup. That's something that I didn't do because again, promo, I am trying to be better, but I do think it's a good idea to at least at the end of everything, post about it, share your setup, take a picture. That's another thing I should have put in my last section, taking a picture of your setup and your table. So you can use that picture because when you're applying to other markets in the future, a lot of times they will ask you for a picture of your table setup. So make sure you take pictures of your setup. I meant to put that in the last section. And also, one of the most important things, make a list of everything that you learned and everything that you will change for next time. This is a good time while things are still really, really fresh on your mind to just write, even if it's like the next day or that same day, just writing out what you learned, things that came up for you, things that you would change next time, things you could do better. So when it's time for your next market, you can have like a list of things that you want to change, you want to do different, or maybe things you'll do the same. Maybe you did everything good and you're like A plus, I did that. So like whatever works for you. So that is going to wrap up the art market tips. I hope this was helpful. I hope it wasn't too long. Hope you took notes. So if you have any other questions, write them down below in the comments and I will either respond there or make a follow-up video to this. And if you made it this far, go ahead and leave me a yellow heart down in the comments. Just really helpful to know like how far people made it in the video. So even if you don't typically, leave comments or anything like that, just leave a little yellow heart. Like it just is helpful to know, right? And then we can close out with our magic gems of the day, my little positive affirmations that I like to put in all of my videos. It's a nod to my business, Magic Gems. So today's magic gem is take your time, what's the rush? You know what? That song is in my head. Okay, if you heard the song by Leon Thomas Mutt, I don't know why that song is popping in my head. That's the positive affirmation we'll leave with today. Take your time, what's the rush? No, I'm just kidding. Take your time. What is the rush? I think that's a good one to leave with. Take your time. It's your first market. Just take your time going through all of the different steps, the setup, even take your time building. So take your time. Don't try to rush it. Just let it flow and you'll be all right. Take your time. You will learn as you grow. It's important to not try to look too much around like other vendors or other people and what they're doing and feel like you have to be at that level. Like I recommend, if that's something that's coming up for you, I made a video called Don't Compare Your Journey. I'll put it up on the screen, but that might be useful for you. If you're in a stage of like comparison and things like that, we've all been there. Just take it step by step. Don't try to rush it, just let it flow in the way that is best for you. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful. If you want to hear more videos like this or any other tips for like art markets, just like being an artist in general, different things that come up for me that I'd speak about as far as my experience of being an artist and even other aspects of life. If you want to hear more things like that, go ahead and subscribe and join our little community here. We're almost at 100 subscribers. That is so crazy. And that's why I just want to take time to say thank you to everybody who watched my art before content video. Like I literally went from like 22 subscribers to almost 100. And I don't know, that makes me feel so happy that like you guys actually want to like hear me talk about things and hear my thoughts and like just like go on this journey with me. One of the reasons why I wanted to kind of like come back to YouTube was just like to share my journey as an artist as I am learning and growing and in this like rebranding period. I've talked about it in other videos, but it's just really nice to be able to like have a space to share my thoughts, my journey, as I'm working through different aspects of my life and my creative journey and my artist journey. And just like being an artist and a creative in general, these are thoughts that I am like working through and thinking through. And sometimes I just want to get on camera and talk about them with you all, with other people who may be like having these same experiences. I feel like it is so helpful to like find community, and this is my way of like finding community in that way, of other like-minded people who maybe dealing with the same things. I think it's so helpful. Yeah, this has just been really cool. And I love doing videos even like this because like I am able to like take all the stuff that I learned during my preparation for my first art market and actually be able to share with other people. Because I said this before, like very like type A personality. Like I am a planner and like I write all these notes and things like that. So I don't know. It's really nice to be able to take all these things that I've learned and like put it out there and share with other people who may be able to like get some benefit from it. And I'm glad you guys like actually like my videos. That's so cool. So I just want to take time and say thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel and left so many really cool comments on my art before content video. Because it's just, I knew I wasn't the only one like having these thoughts. I'm like, okay, so I'm not the only one seeing this, right? Like we all are kind of like on the same page as far as like social media and things like that. So thank you all. And thank you for those of you who are watching this video right now. I really appreciate you taking the time to even like watch this, like you could choose any video, but you clicked on this one and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you. I really hope this was helpful. And if it was, let me know. If you did your first market and any of this stuff helps, like just come back and let me know. That'd be super cool. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. And yeah, be good, y'all. Be good to yourself. Okay, bye.